This is Durdle Door in Dorset, just up the road from the house. Today I'm going to use a Gelli pad to make some backgrounds for a collage of Durdle Door, and I'm going to do several prints. So a Gelli pad is a wonderfully big blob of jelly, and you use it to make prints. And at the moment I'm going to prepare some background papers that I can cut up, tear up and turn into collage pieces for a picture of Durdle Door. So you start off by using a roller, or some people call them brayers, and spread out some ink or paper or paint. I'm using acrylic paint, and what you do is you spread it all out on the Gelli pad, put the paper on and peel it off, and there you go. The simplest way of doing anything is to just put a colour on and peel it off, and I've immediately got a blue piece of paper. So if I want a sea or a sky, then I can put a particular shade of blue and I can create my paper, and you get a lovely painterly effect. So I'm spreading out the paint, and now I'm marking into it, I'm scratching into it with different implements, and you can make a negative pattern doing this. This is one way of using a Gelli pad, and I'm just using ordinary cartridge paper, spreading it out on it, smoothing it down, and then you peel it off, and there you've got your lovely negative pattern. And you can also take what's called a ghost print as well, if you want to. And after you've taken the paint up off the Gelli pad, you can press another piece of paper and get this ghostly effect. Now I'm putting the blue one back on and picking up a layer of purple. There we go, so it's blue and purple together. And what I'm doing now is using a pattern piece. I've got lots of patterns, vintage patterns, and there's one there that I don't really want. It's of a hat, and so I'm using the paper because it's very thin and lovely. So, and just picking up some spare bits. So the idea today is to create lots and lots of different papers that are all going to be different colours, different texture, patterns, different results of experimentation with my materials. And I'm going to create a big wad of papers that I can then use to create collage pieces. And I'm going to look at the picture of Durdle Door that I took. I took that one about 4 years ago. And I'm going to trace it. I'm going to trace the picture, and then I'm going to create a collage and make up the picture filling in the gaps of the tracing. And I'm going to use these pieces of paper, and I'm going to create lots and lots of them so I can have lots of different tonal values. I need some blues, I need some warm colours, some cold colours, some darks, some lights, some heavily textured for the rocks, some sort of swoopy texture for the sea and the sky, and I'm just experimenting. So here again, I'm making a negative pattern by working into it with a brush and with a spatula, a little rubber, it's a ceramic tool, and then picking up that. So I'm doing quite a few blues because I know there's a lot of blue sky and blue sea in it, but I'm also going to layer up these papers. I'm going to put lots of different tones and textures onto each of them, so that I can have layers of colour, layers of texture, layers of patterns, and create different tonal variations using different techniques on the Gelli pad. I love this Gelli pad. I bought one for me and one for my friend about 2 years ago, and you can use them to create prints. I mean, I do lino printing and collagraph printing, and I do all sorts of different types of printing. I do polyboard printing as well, and dry point etching. And this is a lovely way of doing printing because you can almost do a monoprint where you just get one. Mono means one, and you get one print from each one of the gel prints. So that's just picking up the ghost. So I'm using old book pages. Got a lot of old books in the house. Now I'm using some metallic paint and a bit of white, and trying out a bit of metallic paint. The heavy-bodied paint works the best. I've got lots of runny paints that I get. Some of it comes from Temu, some of it comes from YPO, which is a school supplier, and very runny. But this is thick paint, it's heavy-bodied, and it's quite sticky, and you can spread it well. If it doesn't spread as easily as you want it to, I've got a little spray, a water spray, and I spray it with the water, and oh, there's Cat. Spray it with the water, and that helps it spread. So this is the heavy body paint, and this is the metallic types of paint at the moment. And again, lots of shades of blue and green and grey. And this one, I think, has a little bit of water on it because it helps it spread. So I'm making some dark tones now, because when I start to put the collage together, it's going to need some dark tones for the rocks and for the shadows, and then some lighter tones for the highlights, the bits where the sun's hitting them. And then we're going to need some variety of shades of brown and green and blue for the sea and the sky. I'm just getting rid of all the extra ink there, paint. You can use inks as well. I've got some inks that are especially for printing, and those work just as well, but you don't get so many colours, and they're not as interesting as some of the colours that you can buy in paint sets or from Hobbycraft or an art shop or online. So I've got a few interesting colours. This one's a nice one, and giving it a good wipe to get rid of the dark tones off there, and then can experiment with a few paler or brighter tones. Right, what am I going for now? I've got a bit of yellow and brown, and this is going to be for the rocks and the earth. And I'm working into them using all these different textures because the rocks are very gnarly. They're very gnarly, and I want to give that impression through the collage pieces. I won't be putting the collage together in this. I'm just showing you how I make my backgrounds, that's all. So I make lots of different textured pieces. Now that one didn't spread very well, so filling in the gap there. You could either fill in the gap with a bit more paint, or you can see it's not working properly at all. It's picking up differently. It must have a different texture, that paint. So you can use a water spray, or just add a different type of paint and hope that it all blends in. And there you go, that one's blending in now. And you can just keep rolling over it and putting different layers on. And there's no particular purpose to this process apart from just creating these different sheets of different textures and backgrounds. I think I might give up with that one. There we go with the water. Spread it out, and there you go. You can see how a little bit of water spray will help blend it nicely. So you might think, why have you picked this colour or that colour? And I'm picking them to match in the original picture. I'm looking at ways of getting different textures. Now I'm trying to get a rock effect and a bit of earth. So this could be the beach, it could be the sand, or it could be the rocks. So I'm just trying to get the effect of textured rock and textured land. And just to make it more interesting, you could use a wildly textured piece of background paper for a flat sand. It doesn't have to be realistic. It's going to be an abstract or a semi-abstract picture at the end. And I'll be showing the finished picture on a different one. I haven't made it yet. I'm just making the background pieces, and then I'll let them dry. And then the next video will be of making the actual collage. And then I'll be making prints. I'm going to do some collagraph printing as well. That's where you build up layers of texture on a board, and you usually run it through a roller printer. I haven't got one here at home, so I'm just going to be using a roller, or the pressure of my own hand, or a big book. There's all sorts of ways of doing it. I like to use the roller, but sometimes it can move. So this one, I've got the screwed up silver foil, which gives a wonderful rocky texture, and it's great. And it could also work for like the sea as well, or for rocks, or for sand, or all sorts of different things. And I'm going to, when I've finished doing all the papers and done as many layers as I feel like is right, I'm then going to divide them up into different sections so that I've got dark tones, light tones, and I've got warm tones, cold tones. So warm tones are orange, red, yellow, brown. all those tones, and cold tones are blues, greens, greys. Purple is an in-between one. That can be hot or cold depending on how much blue or red it has, and the same with brown. Brown can be a hot colour or a cold colour depending on how much yellow or green it has in it. So green is a cold colour, yellow is a warm colour, and you can get greenish yellows and you can get reddish yellows, and you can get yellowish greens and bluish greens. Now this is a hot colour, love the hot colours. And so red, orange, yellow, hot colours, and they jump forwards. So you can make your pictures, if you like, just using colour theory. So I'm using something here to create a few textures, just trying things out, see what they're like. So I've got a lid of a Pringles jar, I think that is, or it might be a coffee jar. And then we've got a cup, the top of a cup, and a candlestick, just making some circles on this one. And then a pill jar, I think it's multivitamin multivitamin lid, and just trying to get some texture in there. And that one, I think, is my it's just some paint masking fluid, I think, and then a few squiggles with the back of the paintbrush. You don't want to press too hard or you'll go through the gel and ruin it. And now I've got the end of a screwdriver, and it's got some little knobbles on the end of it, and I like that effect. So picking that one up, and now I've got some hot papers, which is great. There we go. So that would be good for the parts that are either those colours, if you're trying to match the colours, or you might be wanting something to jump forwards and come towards the viewer. So you'd put some red on there, or some yellow or some orange, and that would make it jump forwards. And to make something sink backwards, you would put blue or grey or green on there. Purple in between, brown in between. So gorgeous shade of purple there, really lovely. So is it going to have some? Yes, it's got a fork. Now I'm not digging in there, because if I did that it would ruin the gel, and one day I will accidentally dig something into it and then I'll have to end up buying a new one. But at the moment I'm just trying to trail it through the paint but not through the gel. And these gel printing, you might think, well, why not just do it directly from, say, a board onto a piece of paper? And here's a board now to make a collagraph print. And the reason why I use the gel instead of the board is because it has this wonderful texture to it and it sticks really well. So I'm making a collagraph board now, and this is where you layer up different textures on a board and you can transfer them to a print, or you can build up a different layered texture to run through a press. So at the moment I'm just doing a bit of a Jackson Pollock here and just putting some glue on to make a raised texture that's just an interesting pattern, which I can then, when it's dry, ink up, paint up, and add to some of those pieces that I've made. I've not finished them. I'm going to add more layers to them. So I'm going to experiment with a few little collagraph boards, and I'm going to experiment with some stencils as well. So I'm thinking about the shapes I might need, and I'm thinking about the shape of Durdle Door and its arch. So I might need some sort of arch shapes at some point, and I might need some squiggly rocks. So I'm just preparing a board to try and give me some pieces of papers that have actually got the shapes that I might need. And I'm thinking about the colours and shapes all the time. What might I need? I might need some warm colours, some sea colours, some sky, or I might need some dark tones and some light tones. You can still make a picture and make it look sort of 3D if you just use different colour theory and the hot and the cold and the shadows and the lights. Or you can do it with, you can do it with the black and white and shades of grey sets of tones. So you think about how are you going to use those tones. Are you looking for contrasting tones? Are you going to have a juxtaposition of different tones against each other to make them stand out? Right, my boards have dried now. There's 3 of them there. And now I'm going to add some paint to them and see how they work. Sometimes they need a bit more glue or more textures on top. And when I've finished with them, when I've printed them and seen what they're like, they might work, they might not. But once I've done that, I will then have these textured boards that will then be the basis of collagraph prints, collagraph boards. And those are where you build up your different textures. So I'm going to first of all try them out just to print with, to get those squiggly textures. And once I've done that, so I'm transferring it directly to the gel. There we go. Rather than doing it straight onto paper, I'm doing it to the gel because you can peel it off in a much more satisfying way. And that's created a base or a ghost print. I tried it out on the white paper first to see what it was like before putting it on one of my ready prepared backgrounds, because I wanted to check what it looked like. So this will add depth to the backgrounds. When I didn't use the roller there because it had red ink on it, so I'm now putting one of my previously made papers on and picking up the red. And you can, the lovely thing about the gel printing board is that you can pick up sections. You don't have to just roll directly onto it. So this is rolling directly onto the cardboard now, and you can see this wonderful texture coming through. And then you peel it off and there it is. That's a very useful piece of background. Now putting it back onto the gel, and I'm doing it through the gel because you can just pick up little sections on top of the papers. So I'm going to try a different one, so do a different colour. This time it's going to be greens and golds. Let's see how it is. So those are the paints I'm using at the moment. And they're quite thick. They're artist quality thick paints, which are great for this sort of thing. They dry very quickly. You have to work fast. Obviously, this has been speeded up, not as fast as that, but you do have to work quite quickly because they will dry up, and that will ruin your roller if you get the acrylic paint all over it and don't wash it. And it can also just dry up on the jelly pad. So trying out, does it look best doing it directly from the collagraph board? Does it look best picking it up from the gel pad? Now I'm trying some stencils. I bought these from Hobbycraft. And one of them is circles, one of them's music notes, musical notes, and I think it's some writing and decorative writing. So I'm just rolling over some lovely purple. It's come out nicely. So that's on the jelly pad, and now I can pick up sections of that on the paper. See, I'm not doing it flat onto it. I'm just picking up little bits because I've already got some tone on that piece of paper and some colour, and I don't want to use all of it. I want to give myself lots of different variations to choose from when I'm trying to choose colours. So here we go. That's great. It's adding some different elements and depth to the prints that are made so far. And the whole purpose of these is experimenting and just collecting a large amount of experimental tones, textures, colours, just that I'm going to use later to create my collages. And I can keep them. I can sort them, I can trim them, I can keep them all to use at a later stage. It's always good to have a nice selection of prepared papers to create a collage with. So just trying out these new stencils to see how they work. And sometimes stencils move, and if you do them onto a gel print board rather than onto paper, they won't move because the gel keeps them where they are, and then you can do a nice print from the gel. See, there you go. And that's a sort of mandala type effect. There we are, and there's the ghost. They're called the ghost when you pick up the remains. Trying the last one of these collagraph boards, and I'm going to save them afterwards to use to make some collagraph boards and build up textures that I'll then print at a later date again. But so I've got one that's shades of blues and whites, good for the sea and the sky, one that's shades of greens and gold, good for the land, and one that's shades of reds and hot colours, good for sun, sunsets, and whatever else you might want to do. And by rolling over the back with the dirty roller, it's creating two sides, so I can choose between the two different sides which one looks the best. Is it the ghostly one on the back of the paper, or is it the one that's the direct print? I love that colour of blue, it's really beautiful. So preparing these and pressing them in, I'm making sure that they don't dig into the jelly because they are quite stiff and I don't want to ruin the gel. So I just want to pick up some of those elements, and it might look scruffy, but there is a method to the madness. They are going to be used. Right, here's the 3 collagraph boards. I'm going to build up those on a later video and show how I create a collagraph print using those. And then here's my pile of papers that I've created. So lots of different tones, textures, colours, and different, the papers themselves are different as well, the weights of the paper, some's thick and some's very thin. And I'm going to just collect all these together, and then I'm going to do next I'll do my in another video I'll do my outline of Durdle Door, and then I'll start to match and find which ones of these papers need to be used. So that will be in another video. Bye bye.